Hello everyone and welcome back to Circus Tutorials. In today's tutorial we'll be teaching you how to juggle using your head. So today's tutorial is a requested tutorial on how to juggle using your head, specifically with balls. There are a lot of other ways you can juggle using your head with other props, such as rings, clubs, or even different ways with juggling balls. But today I'm going to teach you what I believe is the simplest version using 3 beanbags. Beanbags are, in my opinion, the easiest, followed by Russian style juggling balls. Those are the sand-filled ones, being slightly more difficult, and a rolling juggling ball, like a hard rubber one or a bouncy ball, will be the hardest still. So not too different in difficulty, but that is going to be the difficulty from easiest to hardest. With that being said, let's begin the tutorial. So the easiest way to juggle using your head with 3 balls is by basically placing it on top of your head and letting it roll off. So the big trick here is the top of your head actually makes a little bit of a peak, almost like the top of a house. So when we place it, we don't want to place it on the very center, because then we don't know if it's going to roll right or left. And we don't want to place it on the same side unless we want it to come back to the same hand. So if we want it to go from one hand to the other, we actually have to aim for the opposite side of our head, let it roll down, and catch. So that's going to be step 1, is just taking the ball, opposite side of the head, let it roll down and catch. So I mostly do this with my right hand, so right hand catching with the left, but you can do it with both. And this is a trick that you can do with both hands once you get good at it. Even though it is a kind of awkward, very fast trick, it is doable. So just go ahead and practice that with 1 ball. And that's going to be step 1, and once we've mastered that, we're ready to move on. So step 2, like always, we're going to move up. Step 2 is 2 balls, 1 in each hand, and we're going to practice with that cycling motion, but instead of tossing one up, we're going to place on the head, hand across and catch. This is a little awkward because since our hand is up here, the hand across catch we're kind of slamming down on. So a little bit tricky to catch sometimes, and you will have a tendency to just smack it to the floor, but that's okay, we're learning. So we're just going to get used to that motion. And again, we can do it with both hands. And if it is a little bit easier, you can actually give a pretty large toss for that second one as well. So that way you have a lot more time. Find what's comfortable for you. There's always multiple ways to practice the same trick. Once you're starting to get the feel for that, we're ready to move on. So now we're ready to try to incorporate it into the juggle. So it really takes about the same amount of time as a normal throw, as long as you're doing it correctly. There is a way you can kind of speed it up or slow it down, which we'll go over in just a second. But as long as you're comfortable with your 3 balls, it should be pretty easy to figure out how to incorporate just 1 or 2 at a time. So as we're doing it, the easiest way is the throw before you're going to place it on your head, throw a little bit higher. And the reason for this is because once we place that ball on our head, that hand is naturally going to be up and catch fairly high. So if we don't throw it high, it'll speed up the pattern. But if we throw it high, it won't change it at all. So just a little bit of a lead into it just to make the trick a little easier. So as I'm going, I'm going to throw a little bit higher from my left. Take my right hand, place it to the opposite side of my head, let it roll off. That'll look like this. Throw a little higher, head, and then down. When I do it, I do kind of give it a little roll forward to make sure it goes off the front, because it does tend to, if you don't do that, go off the side, which really isn't a big deal. You just kind of have to catch it up by your shoulder. But you really don't want to accidentally throw it behind you, because then it's coming behind you and it makes it really hard to catch. So just make sure that it's either towards the front of your head or you roll it a bit forward, and that way it'll be a very, very easy catch. So I'll show that one more time. High throw with the left, onto the head, and roll down. So with all of the juggling tricks, we want to have it as slow as possible. The slower it is, the easier it's going to be for us. So if it's on our head for a longer amount of time, that's going to make it easier because we'll have more time to catch the throw before and more time to throw the throw after. So that's why the bean bags are the easiest option in my opinion, because as you place it on your head, you can give it a little bit of a squish, and especially if you turn your head a little bit, it'll stay on your head for just a second before it comes down and give you even more time. So you can squish, 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 and keep it on your head a little bit longer. Again, if you turn your head a little bit, it does make that peak. If you turn it, it makes a little bit more of a flat spot, and now slow it down even more still. And so that just gets a little more difficult depending on if you're using bean bags or a rolling rubber ball, where it'll start rolling immediately. But we'll slowly work our way up, one at a time. And then try to do 2 in a row. So we'll do 2 now. 1, 2. So if you notice, both left-hand throws were high, so I could kind of catch up high already, so that way it's less movement to get to my head. If I was catching all the way down here, that's a lot of movement and takes a lot of time. If I catch up here, it goes very quickly to my head. So I'll do 2 one more time. 1, 2, and back to juggling. And that's how we're gonna work our way up. 2, then 3, then 4, and then before you know it, you'll be able to keep it going as long as you want. It is a little awkward getting the hang of keeping your right hand up to make it nice and slow. Again, if you haven't bring it all the way down, it's very fast, but keep it nice and high so that way you have a very little motion to move to the top of your head. And as one more quick little thing I want to leave you with is actually a fun little way to start using that same trick. So again, think of your head as like a peak of a house. You can take 2, place them both on, and then 1 rolls off one way, 1 rolls off the other. So you can start this way by doing that, up at the top. As it comes down, throw the left hand, and start juggling from there. One very smooth, do it again, whee, there we go. So just as another little way that you can incorporate that same thing, just as a flashy little start. So with that, that's going to bring the tutorial to the end. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for your input on what you want to see in these videos. Again, this one was a requested video, so we do appreciate your input. And if you'd like to see a video on a specific subject, leave that down below. I know this one took a while to get out, been a little preoccupied, but we're going to try to get back to a more regular schedule. With that, do all the YouTube things. We do appreciate it. It does help us out. And with that, my name is Chuck Clark, and this has been Circus Tutorials, and we'll see you in the next one.